it is like my second home. So people are saying, oh, Bernier is calling himself the Albertan from Quebec. I'm not calling myself the Albertan from Quebec. I want to give you an history about that. In 2007, when I was industry minister under Stephen Harper, and as you know, what is the role of the industry minister? It is to give subsidies to businesses. And I don't believe in that. And I didn't believe in that at that time also. So I had a discussion with Stephen Harper. I said, you know, can we cut all the subsidies to businesses and having a flat tax on business? And Prime Minister was right when he told me, Maxime, it was not part of our platform. It's a big change and we cannot do it. If you want to do that, you need to propose a resolution in front of our members at the next convention, and if our members are on board after that, we may put that in our platform for the next election. That was in 2007. So knowing that, every time that the industry department had a check to give to SNC-Lavalin or to Bombardier or to GM, I was not in the news. I was calling one of my colleagues and I was saying to them, do you want to be in the front page of the media and on TV because there's $100 or $10 million to give to Bombardier? And they were very happy doing that kind of announcement. And so at the end, journalists were calling my office. How come Bernier is not there? That is his portfolio. And off the record, my people were saying Bernier doesn't believe in corporate welfare. He tried to kill it, was not successful, but he doesn't want to be in the news. And that journalist wrote in the Global Mail, maybe in the first page in the business, Bernier the Albertan from Quebec. And I was, because of my free market ideas like you, and my libertarian point of view on the economy. So I was very proud of that. And that's why, you know, I wanted into I decided to jump into politics in 2006 to fight for the real conservative free market values, individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect and fairness. And yes, when I didn't win with 49% of the votes, I had two choices: to fight for what I believed or to quit. And I stayed with, at that time, after the leadership, with Andrew Scheer, because I thought with 49% of the votes, I'll be able to influence the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada to take some of our great ideas. Cutting the CBC to save $100 million. Cut, and also the same thing about the CRTC in telecom, abolishing the CRTC in telecom, privatization of Canada Post, so all our great ideas. But 8 months later, Andrew Scheer told me, Maxime, we won't take any of your bold ideas for our platform for the 2019 election. And when you're speaking about that, you don't represent the party. You're speaking for yourself. So in August last year, I said, okay, maybe I'll go back in the private sector and make more money. But I like politics and I like to fight for the real free market ideas and personal responsibility. So I decided I'll stay and I will fight for that. And we created the People's Party of Canada. Why the People's Party of Canada? Because we are putting the people first. And we have policies for Canada, not for other foreign countries. So we have the right reform for this country to be freer and more prosperous. And I'm very happy, very pleased. It's going very well. I can tell you that we are making history right now. We are building a party, and in less than 11 months, and everybody and the mainstream media were saying in September, October of last year, It's a one-man show. Bernie won't be able to build a party before the next election. The plane won't take off and blah, 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 blah. So right now, we are here. Here in Alberta, I can tell you that today, we have 32 candidates, and there's 34 ridings in Alberta. We'll have 34 candidates in 2 weeks from now because we have 2 nominations in these ridings. So that's great. But also all across the country, we have up to now more candidates approved by Election Canada than the Liberals, the NDP, the Green, except the Conservative. We have 278 candidates approved by Election Canada for the next election all across the country. And I can tell you that we'll have a full slate of candidates in 338 ridings before the end of August. So we are able to have candidates and build this party because of you, because of our membership. When we started the party, based on these ideas, and yes, we started the party with the platform that I put forward during the leadership campaign of the Conservative Party of Canada. And by the way, if you go back in history, and some of you will remember the Reform Party of Canada, the Blue Book. I ask you to read the Blue Book. 90% of our platform, it is based on the Blue Book. Because the Blue Book and the Reform was a real conservative party, a real free market party, a real limited government in Ottawa, a real party that fight for having a government in Ottawa that will respect the Constitution and not interfering in provincial jurisdiction. So that's why our platform is very popular and our principles are very popular, not only in Alberta, but all across the country. And when we started, people came to us. A month after we created the party, we had at that time 30,000 founding members. And I know that some of you here are founding members, and I want to thank you. And now we're more than 41,000 members all across the country. We're not like the Reform Party. Thank you. We're not like the Reform Party. The Reform Party, it took them 6 years to have candidates, but they didn't have candidates in Quebec. They didn't have candidates in Ontario. They were a regional party. We're not a regional political party. Let me tell you that. I'll give you an example. In Quebec, the population in Quebec represents 23% of the population in Canada. Our membership in Quebec represents 21% of our membership. It's all like that all across the country, except here in Alberta. In Alberta, you represent 12% of the population. Our membership in Alberta represents 17% of our membership. So, yes. So if you're a real free market conservative party, you want to have a big base in Alberta. And we have a big base in Alberta. But we're all across the country. What I'm telling you today in English, you can Google, you can go on YouTube. I'm saying the same thing in French. And, you know, I think people are coming to our party because of our authenticity. We don't try to please everybody. We don't try to pander to every special interest group. I said that there's no political correctness with us. We are speaking the truth. We are speaking about what we believe with passion and with conviction, and that's why we are successful, and that's why a lot of people, some Canadians, will be surprised the 21st of October, I can tell you that. So let's speak a little bit about our platform. I want to speak, you can go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. You'll have all our platform over there, and you'll be able to read in details because it is important. I want you to know our platform. I want you to be able to explain our platform to your friends. If you speak about equalization, so it's very important in Alberta for you, and I understand that. I understand your frustration in Alberta. You know, I'm traveling across the province. I started that last Sunday. I will be here until next Monday. I was in Fort McMurray, Grand Prairie, Red Deer, Calgary, Edmonton, Medicine Hat, and I don't know what, but I will do other cities the next couple of days. And everywhere it is the same thing. Your frustration about what's happening in Canada. The most important one, it's about equalization. You don't understand why you are still paying in the equalization formula when here in Alberta the economy is not so great. And I'm the only political leader who speak about that formula. And I said, and I'm saying in French and in English, that formula, it's unfair. It is unfair for you, but it is unfair also for Quebec. We need to change the formula. We need to have a new formula that will be, listen to that will be less generous. Andrew Scheer won't speak about equalization because he's pandering to Quebec for votes. He's pandering to Atlantic Canada for votes. I'm saying the same thing in Quebec, and actually about the equalization. If you go on the YouTube, and I like the social media, everything is there. You can Google that, and so you'll see that I delivered a speech in Quebec 7 years ago on the equalization formula. And I said in Quebec, in French, to the Quebecers over there, to my people in Quebec, that I'm not proud to be a Quebecers when we receive equalization money. Quebec must receive zero equalization money because Quebec will be a rich province. And that's what we must do. We must do something different. And the best way to give the right incentive to Quebec and other government is to be less generous. Like that, these provincial governments will have the right incentive to develop their own natural resources, and doing that, they will be rich. And, you know, the equalization formula right now, it is a poverty trap. Quebec is a poor province for the last 50 years. And why Quebec is a poor province? Because of the formula also. There's only 3 economists in Canada who understand that formula. And I'll give you an example. The formula is a mess. The energy coming from oil and gas, it is in the formula at the free market price. But the energy coming from hydroelectricity, that's what we have in Quebec. It is at the subsidies price. So when you put that in the Constitution, you have the energy coming from the oil and gas at the free market price, and you have the energy coming from hydroelectricity at the subsidies price. We need to change that. It must be at the free market price, and like that it would be fair for everybody. So that's only one part of the equalization formula. But it's so important for you that your premier here in Alberta wants to do a referendum in a couple of months from now on the equalization formula. Because Jason knows that it is unfair. But it is not under his jurisdiction. He cannot do anything. It's at the federal level. And I don't understand why Jason Kenney is supporting Andrew Scheer right now. Andrew Scheer won't do anything for the equalization. Look at his platform. He won't speak about it. He won't help Jason Kenney. And speak about pipelines and about the equalization. Andrew Scheer is like the Liberals, the NDP, the Green, everybody. I'm the only one who has the courage to speak about that. I don't have any time to waste. I'm in politics for these big reforms because I understand. I know my history. In Quebec, in 1968, René Lévesque started an independentist movement. And at that time, he had only 5% of the vote. But 10 years later, we had a separatist government in Quebec, a PQ government in 1973. Here in Alberta, if we don't tackle that, if we don't solve pipelines and equalization, you have a small independentist movement, maybe 2–3% of the population. If we don't do anything, in 10 years from now, you can have an independentist government in Alberta. I don't want that. And that's why it's so important for the unity and the prosperity of our country to speak about that. We are doing that at the BBC. So let's speak about pipelines. We know that Trudeau, the NDP, the Greens, they're all against pipelines. It's okay. We know that. What about Andrew Scheer? Andrew Scheer said he wants to build a national corridor all across the country. And he will have pipelines, and that will be great for the country. Let me tell you an anecdote, a real anecdote. A couple of weeks ago, I was on a TV show, a political TV show. I was in Ottawa, and they were in Montreal, TVA in French. And I'm the only politician in Quebec to speak for pipelines. And so they wanted to have an interview with me. And so the journalist asked me a question, Bernier, you for pipelines? I said, yes. You know that the Premier of Quebec is against pipeline? I said, yes. You know that the Premier of Quebec said he doesn't want any dirty oil in Quebec? I said, yes. You know that the Premier of Quebec said there's no social acceptability for pipeline in Quebec? I said, yes. So Bernier, you want to have the support in Quebec, and you're speaking against pipeline. Why are you doing that? I said, because the Premier in Quebec does not represent the population. The population in Quebec understand, and they know, since the huge tragedy that we had in Quebec about in Lac Mégantic, and they know that transporting oil and gas by pipelines, it is safer for the environment, but also, most importantly, safer for the population. And they understand that. And by the way, I said, by the way, we have pipelines in Quebec right now in the ground. And Quebecers understand that we are in 2019, and in 2019 we can build pipelines with the best technology. So, and by the way, I said, if you look at the poll in Quebec, more than 40% of the population wants to buy their oil and gas from Western Canada, and they are in favor of pipelines. So when I'm speaking about it, I'm not against the population. I'm against the provincial government that is listening to radical environmentalists in Quebec. That's it, and that's a fact. So he said, how are you going to be able to have a pipeline that will cross Quebec and go to New Brunswick? I said, I will use the Constitution because it's a federal jurisdiction. I will use Section 9210. And he said, what's that? You know, it's simple. You pass a legislation and you say, this pipeline is for the advantage of our country, and that's it. When you do that, you have the full authority, you have the full jurisdiction, the full responsibility to approve pipelines. And so a provincial government, they can go, if they want, in front of the court, but they will lose because we are using the Constitution, and we are using that. We have the full authority to do that, and they cannot stop it. They cannot stop that. By the way, the federal government used that clause in the Constitution more than 300 times since Confederation. For what? To build national infrastructure like railroad. So we need to use that. And so the journalist said at the end, Maxime, if I understand pretty well, you want to impose a pipeline on Quebec? And I said, yes, I want to impose a pipeline on Quebec. But oh my God, it was all in the news. It is not politically correct. And it was all in the news in French, in the first page of the newspaper, in French. Bernier wants to impose pipeline on Quebec. But it was great, because all the journalists called my office, radio station, TV station, every journalist in Quebec, and they asked me that. It was a scandal to impose a pipeline on Quebec. But they gave me the opportunity to speak about it on radio, to speak about it in TV. And it was a huge success for me, because I was able to reach a lot of Quebecers. So, a week later, Andrew Scheer came at the same show, same journalist, same questions. And I must admit that Andrew, his French at that time was pretty good. So, they asked all the question on pipeline, and Andrew said, I'll build a national corridor, and it will be okay. And you know, it will be, and the journalist said, you know, but the Quebec government is against that. He said, no. Andrew said, I'll be able to convince the Quebec government, because in my corridor we'll have electricity. And I know that Quebec want to sell the hydroelectricity to Ontario. So they will be able to use my corridor. And I'm sure I'll be able to convince the Quebec government on that. And by the way, it was in the news about it. As you know, the premiers had a meeting and they were speaking about that. And again, the Ontario government and Mr. Ford said, no, we don't want to buy electricity from Quebec. So the journalist knew that, and he said to Andrew Scheer, yes, but Andrew, Ontario doesn't want to buy electricity from Quebec. It would be useless for Quebec. Oh, no, you know, we'll have an agreement with Quebec, we'll be able. And Bernier said last week that he will use the Constitution to build pipeline. What is your point of view of that? He said, no, I won't use the Constitution. So, Bernier said that he will impose a pipeline on Quebec. Oh my God, it's not politically correct. So Andrew said, no, I want to impose a pipeline on Quebec. You can find that in French on YouTube. You have Andrew Scheer, and we translate that. Andrew Scheer that he won't use the Constitution in Quebec in French, and he won't impose that to Quebec. Why? He's pandering to Quebec. He doesn't have any conviction. And when he's telling you that here in Alberta, he said in Alberta in English that yes, he will use the Constitution. But in Quebec, in French, he's saying the opposite. You cannot trust a fake a leader like that. He's like Trudeau. He's a weak leader. And a weak leader. So we'll do that. And we'll do that all across the country. And some journalists asked me the question a couple of minutes ago, why are you here? It's a strong conservative riding. And yes, it's a strong conservative riding, real conservative riding. That's why I'm here, because we are the real conservative party. We are the real free market party. And because I want Andrew to win, and with you and all together, he will win. And I'll give you an example. Why Andrew Scheer is like the Liberals? Balancing the budget. If you're conservative, it must be important. Andrew Scheer said, you know, and we were laughing at Justin Trudeau. We, the opposition, oh, the budget will balance itself. And we all know that it didn't happen and it won't happen. You need to have the courage of your conviction and do some cuts and being ready to have some protests in Ottawa to balance the budget. So Trudeau said he would balance the budget in 4 years ago. And we know that he didn't do it. But Scheer in the House, remember that on TV at question period. He was always Trudeau, when you balance the budget, it's so important, it is not responsible. The budget doesn't balance itself, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I will balance the budget in 2 years, I will balance the budget in 2 years. Scheer is another, like Trudeau, traditional politician. Because in a month ago, in BC, he said, oh, sorry, I won't be able to balance the budget in 2 years. It's too difficult. I will balance the budget in 2 terms, in 5 years. Is it a real Conservative Party not able to balance a budget? He wants to spend and spend and spend, and it is unfair. He will add more deficit, more money on our debt. It is not responsible. It is you and our future generation, my daughters, that will have to pay for that. We need to stop it. So that's why I call them the Lib-Com party. The Liberal and the Conservative are all the same. And when people are speaking about splitting the votes, Andrew Scheer is splitting the vote. Andrew Scheer is splitting the vote with the Liberals. He's splitting the Liberals' vote. That's his goal. That's why he said, now under my leadership, he said that to the Global Mail last December, now under my leadership, the Conservative Party of Canada is a centrist, pragmatic political party with lots of ideas for a lot of people. So he's a centrist party and he's splitting the votes with the Liberal. He's not conservative anymore. And translation of that quote is, I don't know what I believe in, I don't have any vision for this country, and I don't have any conviction. Tell me what you want to hear, and I will repeat that. So no conviction, no vision, a centrist party, and they're not conservative anymore. So that's why here in Alberta, you have 2 choices. 2 choices. Do you really think that Justin Trudeau will be able to elect 1 candidate here in Alberta? No. You're so mad at him. He won't be able, and you're right to be mad. You're so mad that he won't be able to elect 1 candidate. So what is your choice? You have the fake conservative. Fake conservative, okay, let's go. No balanced budget. Believe in the Paris Accord, like Trudeau. No changes, and believe in corporate welfare, like the Liberals. Immigration, always more and more immigrants, like Trudeau. So look at our platform, and I think you have all that here. All that here, it's factual. You have us, and the Conservative, and the Liberals, it's all the same. So, what is your choice? It's the fake Conservative, and the real Conservative. The real free market political parties, the PPC with Andrew, that's your real choice. And I'm asking you not to vote against something. I'm taking care of Justin Trudeau in Quebec. I will have a lot of seats in Quebec. Trudeau has 47 seats in Quebec on 78 seats. I can tell you that the PPC is very popular in Quebec, and I will take care of Trudeau. He will lose some seats in Quebec, and I will have some seats in Quebec. So for you in Alberta, vote for your values, vote for what you believe in, vote for yourself, and doing that, you will help to create a more prosperous and united country. That's important. And you'll vote for a political party that has the courage to speak about the bold reforms that we need to do in this country. I don't want you to have an independentist government in 10 years from now. I want you to be happy, to be part of this country, and to participate in the political life of our country in Ottawa. That's too important. So I can speak about climate change also. Lib-Com, Trudeau, and Scheer. Both of them believe in the Paris Accord, and both of them want to achieve the targets in the Paris Accord. Except Trudeau will impose a carbon tax, Scheer won't impose a carbon tax. But Scheer will impose more regulations on businesses. And a regulation on a business, what that means, it is it is a business usually, when they have a new regulation, it is a cost for the business. And they will transfer that cost to the consumers. So that means higher prices for you. So share, no carbon tax, more regulation on businesses. But also because he wants to be sure to achieve the Paris Accord targets, she will impose a tax on the big emitters, only the big one. And so that would be a cost for us. But also, she believes in the Paris Accord. And yes, oil and gas, it is good. But go on his website, go on his platform, he wants to tax you, and after that use that money to give subsidies to the green technology and the green industry. That's part of his platform. We won't do that. No subsidies to businesses, no subsidies to the green industry. You know, that's, I think, the logic in this country, the big logic. So, for him, Paris Accord is important. For us, we won't sign the Paris Accord. We won't do anything at the federal level. The environment, it's a shared jurisdiction with provinces. So if Alberta wants to have a cap and trade system or carbon tax, good for them. If Quebec wants that, good for them. But at the federal level, we won't impose more regulation, more taxes because of climate change. And we won't sign the Paris Accord. So that's simple. That's simple. So that's a huge difference. So the Libcon party, I can speak for an hour about that. But let's speak about the UN. Andrew Scheer said yesterday, opened the Global Mail. He said, the journalist asked him, you know, Justin Trudeau is running for Canada to have a seat at the UN Security Council. And he's doing that by giving a lot of our money to other dictatorships in Africa and to other countries to buy their votes. So Scheer, what do you want to do? Do you want to have a seat at the UN Security Council? What he said, yes, it's important. I want a seat over there and I will campaign for a seat at the UN. That's Scheer and Trudeau. Please look at his platform. Not only my platform. He's not conservative anymore. The only thing that he told you a couple of months ago that he's following is when he said that it is a centrist political party. And he is a new centrist political party. That's the Conservative Party of Canada. What about the UN? You know, I said the UN, it's a dysfunctional organization. And we won't give a penny to have a seat at the UN Security Council. We can speak about foreign aid. Justin Trudeau is giving a lot of money to other countries, yes, to have a seat at the UN, but also because of his agenda on climate change. He's giving $2.3 billion to African countries to fight climate change. Do you really believe that the African dictatorship used that money to fight climate change? But we can save $4 billion by cutting foreign aid. Andrew Scheer won't do that. He won't do that. He's like Trudeau. Foreign aid is very important. We are the People's Party. We're working for the people and for our country and for the sovereignty of our country. That's us. So we won't give $4 billion to other countries on foreign aid. But what we will do, I know that Canadians are generous. We are generous. Yes, we need to be there to help other countries when they have a humanitarian crisis or when they have an environmental disaster. We need to be there, and Canadians agree with that. But we don't need to be there to build roads in Africa, to give money to China. That's what the Trudeau government is doing. They give money to China, $300 million to China. China will put that in an infrastructure bank in China, in Asia, and they will manage that to have more influence in Africa and promoting the communist philosophy in Africa. Our government is giving 300 million for that, and they will help African countries to what? Build pipelines. So we must stop that. We must stop that. So that's why we can save money, and that's why we can balance the budget. But we can also save $5 billion on corporate welfare. Andrew Scheer won't speak about that. It's like Justin Trudeau. It's good to give subsidies to businesses, but for him, he wants to give subsidies to the green industry because he believes in climate change. So for us, no subsidies to businesses, but we will save $5 billion and we'll use that money to lower taxes to every single entrepreneur in this country. You'll have a flat tax of 10%. That's why Andrew Scheer said he won't balance the budget, because he doesn't want to tell how, because the next question is, okay, how will you do that? How will you do that if you want to balance the budget in 2 years? And he will have to answer that question. So it's too difficult. It's too difficult to say, I will cut $4 billion to foreign aid, I will cut $5 billion to corporate welfare, I will cut $100 million to the CBC, I will privatize Canada Post, he doesn't want. It's too bold. It's too bold, and maybe Canadians are not ready for that. Yes, they are ready for that. Yes, they are ready for that, for sure. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, because I know that you will support Andrew. Not Andrew Scheer. You're Andrew. You're Andrew. You will support Andrew here. And just, I'm asking you, look at our platform. Look at it. Take 5 minutes and look at the Conservative. You have a lot of arguments now to go up there during summertime at the barbecues and to speak about it. So the Conservative Party of Canada, it is like the Liberal. And it is dangerous. It is dangerous for the unity of our country. Yes, because they don't want to speak about what it is important. So, I want to tell you that it's my best time in politics. Because no political correctness, no pandering. No pandering. I don't have a platform to please Alberta, and a platform to please Quebec, and a platform to please Canadians from Chinese origin, or a platform to please Canadians from other origin. No, our platform is for all Canadians and all across the country. That's why I said, I won't pander to special interest group. I said that I'm fed up with the radical multiculturalism. Trudeau and his cult of the diversity. He said that our strength is our diversity. That's not true. Our strength is our unity. What unites us, that's our strength. And so, yes, I'll
personal tax rates.
Yeah, I'll keep her. You know my platform better than me. She wants me to speak about personal tax rate. I will. But before that, I want to finish about the extreme multiculturalism. She won't speak about that because it's politically correct. It's like Justin Trudeau. Just a short anecdote. The time is running, sorry about that. Short anecdote. During the leadership campaign, I wanted to be the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. A Muslim group in Toronto called my office and they said, in our community in Toronto, we have 5,000 Muslims that are members of the Conservative Party of Canada. And we have questions for all candidates. And if you can come, and we'll ask the same questions to every candidate. And Bernie, you're the only one, you didn't come to see us. Can you? I said, okay, I'll be there. I went to Toronto. They asked me the questions. And two ladies, very polite, they asked me the questions. And at the end, he said, Maxime, it is the most important question. If you don't have the answer, you can think of it and go back to Ottawa and write your answer and send that to us. Or you can take 15 minutes and half an hour to think about it right now here, and after that we'll be there for your answer. I said, my God, what is the question? The lady said, "What will you do for the Muslim community?" "Oh, that's the question?" I said, "Yes. I will do nothing. Nothing for the Muslim community, nothing for the Christian community, nothing for the Jewish community, but I will do everything for you as a Canadian." No pandering. You are Canadian, and that's why these people came here, to share our Canadian values. That's why. And that's why we must speak about it. We must, the federal government is giving subsidies to, I'll give you an example. I don't have anything against the Canadians from Chinese origin, but they like to celebrate the Chinese here. That's okay. But why the federal government will give our money to celebrate the Chinese here? We must subsidize people who want to celebrate our history, our culture, our Canada Day. Celebrate what unites us. If the Chinese community in Canada want to celebrate the Chinese Day, it's okay. I don't have anything against that. But they can use their own money. That's it.
Yes.
That's it. So, okay. Corporate tax. I just forget on businesses. We'll have a flat tax, and we'll abolish the capital gains tax in Canada. So that's very important. On personal income tax, we're conservative. We don't like big, fat government in our pocket, and you want more of your own money in your own pocket. So yes, in our platform, we have a bold reform. There's 5 tax brackets right now in Canada at the federal level. So we'll do a big reform. So what we will do for the poor in Canada? Oh, I'm not politically correct. I'm using the word poor. I'm supposed to use the disadvantaged, economically challenged people. But no, it's okay. For the poor in Canada, if you earn less than $20,000 in this country, you don't pay an income tax, and that's okay. I want to help them. We'll increase that to $15,000, so they won't pay an income tax for earning less than $15,000. That will help the poor. For the middle class and the rich, what we'll have? We'll have 2 tax rates. One at 15%, starting at $15K, up to $100,000 a year, a 15% tax rate. For $100,000 and more, you'll have another tax rate of 25%. So that's a fair reform. Everybody will pay less taxes than they're paying right now. And I want you to understand the reform. So on the first 15K, 0% tax rate. 15K to 100K, on that a 15% tax rate. And if you earn like $120,000, from 100K up to the 20,000K, that part you'll pay 25%. So that's our tax reform. So it's important to listen. But the question is, I don't believe in deficit, so we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to do that in the first budget, and in the second budget we'll balance the budget, because we'll do all these reforms and we'll save a lot of money, and we'll have a smaller government in Ottawa, and we won't interfere in provincial jurisdiction. But I just tell you about the cuts, but I want to tell you about the reinvestment also. I want a government that won't interfere in provincial jurisdiction, but I want a government that will be strong in our federal jurisdiction, in our defense, veterans. We need to do something there. Yes, seniors, we're going to reinvest there. When we have our surplus, we're going to reinvest in our Canadian forces, our veterans, our seniors. It's all under our jurisdiction and our responsibility in Canada, and we will do that. That's very important for us. So my main message is, at the end of the day, when you'll be alone and you'll have to vote, think about your grandchildren. Think about your province in 10 years from now. And I'm sure that you don't want an independent government. You want a strong country, strong and free country. Think about that. Think about yourself and your values, and look at all the political party and make your choice. And I'm pretty confident that all candidates here in Alberta will be successful the 21st of October. Thank you very much.